What's up, guys? Barry Game here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we're going to be talking about the earlier game discussion of who to build once you're on like 2, 4, 6, somewhere in that ballpark's Transcendence hero number. Now, typically you build Lord of Fear Aspen once you get to your second Transcendence hero. You hard swap your Eloise, Fairy Queen Vesta, or Hyperspace Hunter Ilamok team to a Lord of Fear Aspen Scarlet Queen Halora. But as you go further on, you get to like 3 and 4 Transcendence heroes, Starwing Jara becomes a very viable option for progress. And I've been browsing Reddit today, and I thought this was a very interesting post that I should share with the community, because the post is actually by Triple M99. He had, Lord of Fear Aspen main account. And there's a lot to talk about because he has a lot of experience in this. From the sounds of it, he's had a lot of progression. And what's best is he's helping people out in the comments on the Reddit post. So once we go through this at the end of the video, go check the link in the description. Go give him a thumbs up over there on the Idle Heroes Reddit page. If you have some questions too, either leave them in the comments down below, or better yet, go comment on this post because it has some really good information from someone who has a lot of really good experience in this situation. So who is better, Lord of Fear Aspen or Starwing Jara? Now, this is the item right here that we are talking about. And as you guys saw, even on our priority list, when we're talking about getting that Destiny transition done, both Lord of Fear Aspen and Starwing Jara are up in the top list for mid-game accounts. Now, let's go over this real quick. Lord of Fear Aspen versus Starwing Jara. My 4 trans team milestones with a Lord of Fear Aspen main. Again, Triple M99, awesome thread that he posted here. It was 5 hours ago when we were making this video. Very, very good. So, TLDR, there is a lot of debates going on both on Reddit and Discord about which route is better. While Lord of Fear Aspen's route has a lot of potential, it's fairly expensive and requires a lot of resources. I got to 3-3-1 in the Void campaign with 20-ish subs and 8 million attack, while Starwing Jara can do the same, but with half the sublimations and 2 million less attack. But I'm sure we can all agree on the fact that the number of Transcendence heroes is equal to the account age. Of course, the longer you're playing, once you really start ramping up progress, you can basically free to play build one every like 3 to 4 months or so. So you can build a couple every single year. The further you get in the game, the more you can build because you're getting more crystals of Transcendence, unless whaling, of course, blah blah blah. So I believe this is the trade-off. Number one, if you have 5 to 6 Transcendence heroes or an older account with less resources, aka sublimations, Cloud Island houses, things like that, go for the Starwing Jara. If you do have 2 to 3 Transcendence heroes on a younger account and plenty of resources, go for Lord of Fear Aspen. This is typically what we see, and why when we say you get to like your second or third Transcendence hero, you should do the swap to make Lord of Fear Aspen your main householder with a Scarlet Queen Halora and a Phantom Defier Elena support. Both of those Transcendence heroes, because they are tenants for your Lord of Fear Aspen. However, if you're later on and you might be struggling with some stuff, again, you don't need as much on the Starwing Jara. You only need like 2 branches, and really you don't need to, but it does help a lot. Disclaimer number 1, I'm not free to play. I spend occasionally, but after a year and a half, I'm still only VIP 5, which is that's basically monthly card holder right there. That's not bad. I got most of my copies from my own awakenings except PDE, so Lord of Fear Aspen route is also possible as a free to play. Disclaimer number 2, while I'm not free to play, sometimes I spend resources stupidly. I spend lots of profit or scrolls for SS or MTBs. So yeah, basically what he's saying is if you played free to play, you could probably be at the same progression point, because even though he does spend, if you're spending those resources improperly, you're not going to be any further ahead than a free to play playing completely optimal. So here are the milestones he's had. Void campaign, 2 Transcendence heroes, the Lord of Fear Aspen and the Scarlet Queen Halora. Chapter 1 fully cleared. Once he got to the third one, he got 2-4 cleared with PDE. Again, you want PDE because that is another tenant. And then he decided to go to Mystic Fairy Freya, maybe for more dodging and stuff like that. I don't know why he wanted to go for that. You're pretty open when you get to that 4th hero who to pick, which is kind of good. And he cleared up to 3-2-10. Void Vortex cleared on 3 Transcendence heroes. That sounds about right with Lord of Fear Aspen. And Aspen Dungeon, he puts the milestones that he had attack for different difficulties. I will say, if we are weighing Starwing Jara versus Lord of Fear Aspen, Lord of Fear Aspen crushes Starwing Jara when we're talking about Aspen Dungeon Purgatory. He can just go 0 to 200 by himself, switching out artifacts, maybe using like a Rui Scepter in the very early stages from 0 to 50, and then changing it up to something more defensive or speed like a and B for the later ones. Realms Gate, he can do Perfect Smash up through 125, but he's also one-shotting the final boss on 136 if you really want to play optimal and do it manually. To be honest, most people don't. Sealand 30 cleared with Lord of Fear Aspen at 8 million attack and PDE slower than enemies. We also have PvP. Don't really care about that. PvP is a non-issue, I feel like, for most players out there. And then Star Expedition, I can one-shot HP bosses up to the 40-ish range. Again, if Star Expedition is something you really enjoy doing, then the obvious option or obvious answer is Lord of Fear Aspen and not Starwing Jara. But here's the pros and cons he kind of locked down from doing these types of routes. The pros: account can progress organically. Each improvement gives you some progress in some sort of the game, either sublimations or new transcendence, unlocking key resources faster, aka if you have less transcendence heroes, it's the better route. It's hard and challenging. You're gonna need some specific artifacts and some good knowledge to know exactly how to set up your Lord of Fear Aspen, because just because you have that Lord of Fear Aspen, if you're not setting him up right for the wave he's fighting, it's not going to really help. And then more game modes, yeah, compared to Starwing Jara, he can do basically he can do a Sealand, Aspen Dungeon, and Star Expedition. She cannot without the help of Azrael, and Azrael is really the main damage dealer. So yeah, Starwing Jara can get some good progress up to 30, but it's more of her being a tank and Azrael being your damage dealer. On an early game count, you really don't want to be building Azrael, which is one of the really big downsides to Sealand, which is going to give you more Cloud Island resources and food. Now the cons: it needs more resources. The whole idea is going faster and one-shotting enemies in the early rounds, so you're going to want to have more sublimation, more power, all that stuff. If you can't afford to have all the sublimation or you can't do it just yet, Starwing Jara then becomes the better option when we're talking about Void Campaign, and Void Campaign is the most important game mode to prioritize in the game. Jara can get you to a Death 100, that's no problem. That helps you get your levels on your heroes. Beyond that, going past Purgatory, you can get some, like, you know, Cloud Island resources, Stellar Shards, things like that, but it's not necessary. Cons here: is hard and challenging, requires great game knowledge. Again, this goes back to the other point where we talked about Lord of Fear Aspen requires a lot of knowledge to know what enemies you're going up against and how to set your team up. Requires macro here. Yeah, probably just running a macro and having it repeat battles on campaign over and over and over without you having to be there on the PC. You can just, you know, there's a link in the description how to download BlueStacks on your PC, use a macro, and get it set up and running. And then speed is crucial. Yes, him being faster than the enemy is going to be one of the most important things you will ever experience. If you can't outspeed the enemy, then Jara strategy typically runs a little bit smoother. Conclusion: overall, I'm happy with where I am. I was following the Starwing Jara route first, where you got Sword Flash and Lord of Fear Aspen first, and switched after I cleared Vanquisher. I was stuck in almost all game modes, and it wasn't even close. After switching, I learned a lot of things about mechanics, and heroes of the game, of course, progressed a lot. If you're figuring things out and you enjoy praying to RNG gods, go to the Lord of Fear Aspen Club. Sorry for the long post. P.S. I'm 1.4 million crystals away from my next Transcendence hero, and I'm considering to change Lord of Fear Aspen and keeping, both changing Lord of Fear Aspen and keeping the team. I mean, it might be good too. So far, I'm gonna keep him and go with either HHA or DGen. Okay, so he added some images too. So he's got all B copies on the main heroes on his account. Looks like Mystic Fairy Frey is the second householder right there. And you can see his overall Lord of Fear Aspen stats. So this is a pretty good example of what to do. You have things like Olivia, you have your Ignis. Those are going to be things for like Star Expedition, and overall it looks pretty good. I mean, I can't really find many faults to this team. It looks really good, like very strong, putting all your power in the tenants, not your second householder. All the power goes to Lord of Fear Aspen, getting him as fast as possible. So the Drake is interesting because at least you'll use Drake in certain game modes. However, he is the worst tenant compared to a regular Aspen copy. But again, Drake actually has uses in other game modes where the regular Aspen will not. So that's a trade-off you have to decide if you want to go super powerful here and forget like Flame Shrine, Broken Spaces as much, things like that. it is something to consider. And he does have, of course, X level 100. I want to know how many cores of origin he has, though, because I want to know how close he is to actually opening the Destiny transitions up now. And if you guys want to go through, like I said, he's answering a ton of questions. So the first link in the description, I'm going to put a link directly to this post, because he seems to have a lot of good knowledge, especially helping people with certain waves. Like, people are getting stuck on certain waves, and he's doing a really good job helping them out. So I just want to give him a shout out, Triple M99. These are the posts I love seeing on Reddit that are informative. They share their experiences with the community, because the more experiences that are shared, the more knowledge base overall we have in the game, because not everybody can do everything in the game. Heck, me, I've done the Lord of Fear Aspen stuff. I've never done the Starwing Jara. So it's a good explanation of one versus the other. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' experience as well. I'll see you guys next time.